Hello and welcome to Administration Wise. In this video, moving further in the series of administrative thinker, we will talk about Henri Fayol, who is a classical administrative thinker. So for the PDF and more detail, you can join our Telegram channel, link of which is given in description box. Without any further delay, let us quickly start with the introduction to the thinker of the day, that is Henri Fayol. Henri Fayol is among the scores of people who have contributed to the evolution of Western management of thought, and the credit for introducing the scientific method in many spheres, including the management, goes to Frederick Taylor and Henri Fayol. However, the introduction and refinement to the objective type of inquiry, Henri Fayol, who is a French practitioner and theoretician, like Taylor, contributed significantly to the corpus of management concept and is considered to be the founder of the management process school. He is considered to be the founder of management process school. And although the scientific management was for long considered an American invention and rooted in the writing of the Taylor, as we had discussed in the previous video, while the Fayol's writing in fact precedes those of Taylor, and it is no wonder that many historians of the European management of thought considers Fayol as the pioneer of the scientific management. And it is a pity that just as in the case of Weber, the importance of Fayol is that he had discovered outside the Europe only after the transition of his work into the English, and as he used to write in French language, but when his book and his works were translated in English, he then only can be discovered among the all other thinkers. So the Henri Fayol's work, that is Industrial et General. His book is Industrial et General, was first published in France in the year 1916, but it did not come into light till it was translated into English language, and English translation of this book was published in the year 1949 under the title General and Industrial Management, title for which is General and Industrial Management. And this book refers to the author of theory and principle of the management. Let us quickly look about his life and work. So Henri Fayol was born in the Constantinople, Istanbul, Turkey in 1841, where his father was working as an engineer and he was educated at Lies in Lyon, France. Thereafter, at the National School of Mines, École Nationale Supérieure des Mines in Saint Etienne, from where he graduated in 1860. And 19-year-old Fayol started his career as an engineer. Born in 1841 and died in 1925, he started his career as an engineer at the mining company Compagnie de Commentary Fortune Desazville, and eventually, after a few years of work, he became the director of the company in the year 1918 and joined this company in 1888. Having spent his entire working life with the company, he remained director of the company until his death in the year 1925. At the age of 84, Fayol's effort as the managing director enables the company to rise from the position of financial disasters to that of the great financial success. As the Erwick observed that the success with which Fayol carried out those duties as managing director is one of the romances of French industrial history. Fayol attributed his success not to his own personal attributes but to the system of management which he evolved and applied with the great care and imagination. Fayol was influenced by Cartesian philosophy and Adam Smith's writing. He was influenced by Cartesian philosophy and Adam Smith's writing, and his ideas on the division of labor. The bulk of his management concept, however, grew out of the reflection as an executive. On the retirement, he devoted time to popularize his views on the management and administration of the development of theoretical duties, he founded the Center Duties Administratives, which has found influence on the business, army, and navy in the France. At the center, he used to chair weekly meeting of the prominent industrialists, writers, officials, academics, and members of the military. He also influenced the French government to pay attention to the principle of administration, and he used to advise the government and investigated into the working of the post and telegraph and tobacco industry. Fayol was a prolific writer on the technical scientific matters as well as on management, and apart from the 10 publications on mining, engineering, geology, and he published as many books papers on the management also, and the most outstanding of his writing is the book General and Industrial Management, which was first published in 1916 in the French language and was translated in 1948 into the English language. His reputation to a large extent rests on this single short publication, and which is still being frequently reprinted, and a large number of his papers are concerned with reform of the public services, and his papers on the theory of administration of state. His papers on the theory of administration of state presented to the Second International Congress of the Administrative Sciences in 1923. Second International Congress of Administrative Sciences in 1923 is considered to be a major contribution to the theory of public administration. Now, the important terminologies, these are administration and management. About administration and management, there has been considered disagreement and debates on the terminologies used by translators of the Fayol's work, particularly his book General and Industrial Management. Fayol used the term administration in his classic administration and industrial et general, but this was translated into the management perspective and creating a confusion among the scholars as well as a disagreement too. The Lindell, Erwick, and Body argued that the term should have been translated into English as administration, while Body says that if one has to go by sort of translation, one cannot avoid the feeling that Fayol was mostly concerned with industrial management, which would be a mistake, and the better and correct term would be the, business and general administration. For Fayol, nowhere distinguished between the business management and public administration. Wren, however, conclude Erwick and Body की बात थी ये. इसके बाद एक और थिंकर है Wren, who had concluded that the Storrs was inaccurate in adopting the word management to define the activity which Fayol called administration, and he was critical that the Storrs introduced the idea that management is a task that is restricted to the working with people, and Erwick, in his lengthy introduction to the Storrs translation, expressed disappointment for use of the word management, and instead of the administration. Similar confusion exists in case of other terms as well, and hence the terminologies used in his book Administration and Industrial et general was translated as general and industrial management is a cause of confusion, as these thinkers used to discuss that the word management should not be used, rather the word administration should be used. Now, the next slide is about administrative theory or a universal theory. A widespread tendency in the English-speaking countries was to draw a distinction between management as an activity and confined to conducting the industrial and commercial undertakings, and public administration as the art of conducting governmental activities. While Fayol, in his address to the Second International Congress of the Administrative Sciences argued that such a distinction between the management and public administration is false and misleading. To Fayol, the attempt to subdivide the study of management and administration in accordance with the purpose of the activity is untenable, and it is sometimes argued that this could simply mean that Fayol is concerned only with industrial management, whereas his claim to the universality is categorically when he says the management plays a very important part in the government undertaking, large or small, whether it is industrial, commercial, political, religious, or other. Instead of his later years, he studied the problem of state public services and lectured at École Supérieure de la Guerre. This is a French name, École Supérieure de la Guerre. क्या है? École Supérieure. Fayol's idea about the managerial activity are presented in the context of his writing on the industrial undertaking, and the totality of the activities of an industrial undertaking is divided into 6 groups. These are technical activities. It is production, manufacture, adaptation, sometimes more conductive to the progress and goal attainment than the other activities. Second one is commercial activities. Buying, selling, and exchange of knowledge of commercial activity is just as important as the knowledge of the efficient production. Commercial activity includes the acumen and decision, thorough knowledge of the market and of strength of the competitors, and long-term foresight, the use of contracts and price regulations. Third one is financial. Activities search for the optimum use of capital. The capital is a prerequisite for the personnel, plant, raw material, expansion of the plant and machinery, reserves, etc. And the proper financial management is necessary to obtain capital and to make optimum use of the available funds for the success of the undertaking. Third one is security activities. Protection of the property and person. It is necessary to safeguard the property and persons, theft, fire and flood, and all social disturbances, including the strikes. Next one is accounting. Stock taking, balance sheet, cost and statistics, an efficient accounting system, and providing an accurate idea of organization's financial condition is powerful management industry instruments. And the last sixth type is managerial activity. Yes, managerial activity in which the Fayol describes the management of any organization as a function and a kind of activity, and he is the quite indifferent whether those exercising this activity are described as managing directors and supervisor and clerks. Director, supervisor, and clerks. He is connected with the function, not with the status of those who exercise it. But however, he is sensitive to the fact that those holding the position at the higher level in the hierarchy and would devote a larger proportion of their time to this function than employees at the lower level. And Fayol classifies this key function into 5 main elements: planning, organization, command, coordination, and control. These are planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling. And acronym for this is POCOC. Fayol says that irrespective of the nature of organization, big or small, simple or complex, non-industrial or non-profit making, the 6 activities are always present through, and though the importance and significance of the first 5 activities may vary, and he laments that management was not taught and was not a part of curriculum. This was not because its importance was not recognized, but because of the absence of theory. And he felt that without theory, no teaching is possible, and his general and industrial management is an attempt to fill the gap of the theory. Means he tries to build a theory in this. Elements of management. These are the 5 elements: planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling. First of all, let us look about planning. Fayol used the term planning, which is a French term, prévoyance, which means foresee or to anticipate or to make plan, and the administration's chief manifestation and most effective instrument to the Fayol is the plan of action, and planning enables the separation of the short-run events from the long-range consideration, and it endows forethought to the operation of an organization. And Fayol considers that experience is an asset in drawing a realistic plan. And to him, unity, continuity, and flexibility and precision are the broad feature of a good plan of action. These are unity, continuity, flexibility, and precision. Flexibility and precision. Now, second one is organization. Organization. To organize an industrial firm or the government agency, it is to provide it with everything required for its functioning. These are raw material, tools, capitals, personnel, etc. And the Fayol classifies these activities into five categories. These are managerial organization, managerial, two categories. These are managerial and human organization. The managerial organization includes the managerial perspective, while the human organization focuses more on the human perspective. And every organization has to perform the following managerial functions. These are personnel, leadership, and organization structure, and ensures that the plan is judiciously prepared and strictly carried out, to see that human and material organization is consistent with the objectives, resources, and the requirement of the concern, set up a single component and energetic guiding authority, harmonize activities and coordinate efforts, formulate clear, distinct, and precise decision, arrange the efficient selection and appropriate placement of the employees, define duties clearly, and to motivate employees to show initiative and demonstrate responsibilities, reward employees in the fair manner for services rendered by them, and make use of the sanctions against irregular and unethical conduct, provide for the maintenance of discipline, ensure that the individual interest are the subordinate to the general interest, and pay special attention to the unit of command, supervise both managerial and human organization, and provide for the appropriate control and prevent access of the regulation or red tape and paper control. Third one is commanding. It is an art, as said by Fayol, that it rests with the certain personal qualities and knowledge of the general principle of the management, and its degree of proficiency differs from unit to unit. Fayol claims that manager who has to command should have a thorough knowledge of his personnel, should eliminate the incompetent one, and be well versed in the arrangement, binding, and the business of and its employees, set a good example, conduct periodic audit of the organization, and use summary charts, bring together his chief assistants by means of conferences at which the unit of direction and focusing of the efforts are provided for, not become the engrossed in detail, and aim at the making unit a unity based, energy based, and initiative and loyalty prevails among the personnel. Next one is coordination. Coordination consists of the working together and harmonizing of all activities and efforts so as to facilitate the functioning of the organization. Essentially, the objective of the coordination is to ensure that one department's effort are coincident with the efforts of the other department, and keeping all activities in the perspective with regard to the overall aim of the organization. And the last one is the controlling or control. It is the objective to obtain the conformity with plan adopted and the instructions issued and principles established in the process. Weakness and errors have to be rectified, and their recurrence should be prevented. For control it to be an effective, it must be done within the responsible time and be followed up by the sanctions. And he uses the term control in the wider French sense of watch, monitor, check, audit, and obtain the feedback. He also talked about what the should be attributes of the managers. Physical attributes should be healthy, vigor, and appearance should be well appeared. Mentally The ability to understand, learn, judgment, mental vigor, and adaptability should be well. Moral firmness and willingness should be acceptable to the responsibility. General education is to be with the matter that is exclusively to the function that he is going to perform, and the special knowledge of the function being handled, be it be technical, commercial, financial, and managerial. And sixth one is the experience. Now, the next slide is about the 14 principles of the administration. These 14 principles are division of work, authority and responsibility, discipline, unity of command, unity of direction, subordination of individuals, individual interest to the general interest. Seventh one is remuneration, centralization, scalar chain, order, equity, stability of tenure of the personnel, and initiative and esprit de corps. Now let us quickly go through them one by one. Division of work is the specialization of labor produces more and better work with the same effort. Authority and responsibility talks about the authority should be commensurate with the responsibility, and in other words, it should be understood as the occupant of each position should be given enough authority to carry out the responsibilities assigned to him. Discipline is the obedience should be observed in accordance with the standing committees and agreements between the firm and the employees. Unity of command for any action an employee should have only one boss. Unity of direction, one head and one plan for each activity. Subordination of individual interest to the general interest talks about the interest of one employee or the group should not prevail over the total organizational interest. Remuneration of the personnel, the remuneration paid for the services rendered should be fair and afford satisfaction to the both personnel and the firm. Eighth one is centralization, that is the degree of initiative left to the managers varies depending upon the top managers, subordinates, and the business condition. Scalar chain, it is also called hierarchy. The line of authority of supervisor ranging from the ultimate authority to the lowest rank. Order or placement, once the basic job structure has been devised and the personnel to fill the various slots have been selected, each employee occupies that job with, wherein he or she can render the most effective service. And the 11th one is equity for the personnel to be encouraged to fulfill the duties within the with demotion and loyalty. There must be equity based on the kindness and justice in the employer-employee relation. The stability of tenure of personnel, it should be suitable conditions should be created to minimize the turnover of the employees. And initiative, the ability to think afresh, would act as the powerful motivator of the human behavior. Aspirant de corps, the last one but not the least, and it is the harmony union among the personnel of an organization and is a source of great strength in the organization. Now, next one is gangplank. Gangplank refers to the need of level jumping. It is the need of level jumping in the hierarchical organization, and although the Fayol places emphasis on the formal organization, he is alive to the danger of conformity to the hierarchy and formalism. So it is an honor to depart the needlessly from the line of authority, but it is even greater one to keep it with when the determined to the business ensures, as this statement is asserted by the Fayol. And he illustrates the problem with the reference of the figure. If a hierarchy looks like this, then if F is required to communicate to P, then in the hierarchical order, he should communicate to E should pass on the information to D, then C, then B, and then A, and in this manner it flows the information and reaches to the P, and it involves too many levels. But as per the idea of gangplank given by uh, Fayol, F should be allowed to communicate directly with B. This will not only save time but also will save effort. But This gangplank is only possible to the extent as the superiors above this level is supportive and informal in this manner. Comparing Taylor and Fayol. Fayol and Taylor can be considered as the pioneer of the scientific management. Both were trained as the scientific scientists before they become manager, and they attempted to build the management theory on the basis of observation of the practical issues as observed by them, and the stable European pattern of the life led the fuel to assume the relatable and stable industrial organization, whereas in case of Taylor had to respond to a rapidly changing capitalist industrial organization in the USA, and Taylor developed the scientific management principle to be applied directly in the field of production, but the Fayol dealt with the general theory of the administration to be applied at the top management level only, and the management was not viewed by the Fayol from the perspective of the workshop management as in the Taylor's case, and but as a universal set of principles applicable to any kind of functionalism and the organizational setting. Despite these dissimilarities, the writing of Fayol and Taylor are essentially complementary, and their ideas on the management indicates the need of uh, arrangement process and material resources and people into the structural hierarchy that is more or less permanent, and this structure in turn provides a starting point for the accomplishment and organizational activities. While their approach is fairly mechanistic, it remains a useful approach for studying organizations and their operations. Consequently, the contemporary thought of organizational design and does not disregard the work of any one of them, be it Taylor or Fayol, but instead it builds a concept with finding from the behavioral sciences. Hence, these two thinkers both are of the classical perspective. Taylor and Fayol are equally important to be studied from the management perspective and perspective of administration as well. Criticism of Fayol. Fayolism has been criticized on several grounds. Some argued that while devoting considerable attention to the functional classification, Fayol neglected the structural aspect, and his treatment of the organization was considered defective, criticized on the basis of structural approach and defective organizational. Peter Drucker, a major critic of the Fayolism, Peter Drucker, observes that some of the worst mistakes of the organization building have been committed by imposing a mechanistic model of an ideal and universal organization on a living business. Moreover, the 14 principles which the Fayol listed have a great deal of overlapping, and functional organization was designed by Fayol in the early years of the 20th century. Although the functionalism is empirical expedient, it is found to be deficient of design and logic, and it takes a single dimension of the management to determine all the facets of the organization and structure around it, while besides the empirical base used by the Fayol for generating a full-fledged theory of the management is too much narrow, and Fayol proceeded to theorize the functionalism on the basis of functions undertaken in the manufacturing company. It would be unrealistic to expect that the insights and derivations from the mining organizations would be equally applicable to the need and challenges of the other organizations. Mining was a fairly large business at the turn of the century, but it would be considered all the business today. Contemporary organizations are definitely larger in size and much more complex. Peter Drucker therefore argues that anything more complex, more dynamic, or more entrepreneurial than the typical mining firm of the Fayol's time demands performance capabilities which are functional principles do not possess, and if used beyond the limit of Fayol's model, functional structure rapidly becomes costly in terms of time and effort, runs a high risk of misdirecting the energies of the organization away from the performance, and considering these limitations, it is imperative that the Fayolism and the functionalism should be used only as one of the several principles and never as the principle in the design of organization, and that are large in size, complex and innovative in goal orientation. To Henry Fayol, the principle of the unity of a command and the supreme importance that can be violated with the impunity, and critics of the principle argue that it would be dysfunctional to the organization to strengthen this hierarchy, and where the sense of unity is less, the personal contact is limited, real difference of outlook are desirable. It is further suggested that the application of the principle would overwhelm the chief executive with problem of coordination, and Fayol's ideas have been criticized by critics of the classical administrative theory for value of judgment involved should or out statement. Judgment involved in the statement that uses the word should and out. For lack of sufficient experimental basis and their internal coordinations and contradictions, elaborating their criticism, Bernard and Simon argued that the managerial organization cannot be explained purely in the terms of set of principles about the formal organizational structure, and they suggested that the actual behavior of the organizational participants departs in many ways from the behavior that is planned, and the writers of the human relations school feel that the Fayol and the Taylor must have mostly ignored the social, psychological, and emotional needs of the employees. They have ignored the social and psychological and emotional angle of the employees of organization and industry. Now, concluding this, we can say that Henry Fayol's contribution to the theory of public administration is very much important and remain relevant even today, and his principles and administrative theory provides a foundation of the modern management and the practices. As the Henry Fayol is a successful executive of mining company in the France, made the sufficient contribution to the management concept and is considered as the founder of the management process of a school, and he considers the management as the science which can be developed, studied, and applied equally well to the public and the private affairs. Emphasized the universality of the management processes and made a distinction between the management and public administration. He identified five key elements of the organization. These are POCOC, and which is acronym for planning, organization, command, coordination, and control. Fayol derived 14 principles of the administration, which must be capable of the adaptation of to the various enterprises and settings. He also emphasized on the importance of training of all in the organization. Although the Fayol places great emphasis on the formal organization, he is alive to the limitation of hierarchy and formalism. Therefore, he suggested the model of gangplank, that is level jumping in the hierarchical organizations. In comparison of the contributions of Henry Fayol, a French manager, and the F.W. Taylor, the American engineer, is useful to understand the complementary of the contribution and differences in their approach and focuses. Taylor also focused mainly on the management principles to be applied directly to the field of production, while the Fayol mainly focused on the development of general theory of administration that is to be applied to the top level management. The Fayol's theory of the functionalism is criticized for the narrow focus, mechanical approach, and for the neglection of the complex factor affecting the human behavior in the organization. And the Fayol's framework of the systematic analysis of the administrative process stimulated subsequent writers on the administration and management. His principles of organization and administration in variant form are applied in the working of the modern organization. And henceforth we came to an end of this video. Thank you all for your patience.